Hi everyone, this is Kelly, and I have a bunch of little stuff here, obviously, if that's not obvious. Um, I actually had a question about this, and so I decided just to show the whole shebang here versus instead of because they're little things, and so rather than doing one little video on this, I figured I would do one video on all the little things. um, but I had shown on Instagram. I don't know what the picture was. I can't remember now, but it had this in it. Might have just been of this. I cannot remember, to be honest. But I had a request to explain this grid. Now, this is something that I have used for a long time, just on a board. Just on. I think I have a ceramic grid that I put it on. But when I decided to make a set of three grids, to laser engrave three grids, like as a set, I wanted them to be the grids that I use already, the ones that I use the most. And this is something I use it's up all the time. I never have it down. Might have different crystals and things on it, but it's never down. Let me show you how it looks like at home. In my main space, I'm actually in the mountains, and um, I had to steal a door handle from my mini altar, but I'll show you. You can get little packs of doorknobs from, well, you can go to like Lowe's and go to the cabinet section. You just want to make sure that the doorknob is flat and doesn't have a screw sticking out of here so that you can use it. You can also, the one that I'm going to show you a picture of is actually one that, well, here, I'll just put it up here. The doorknob that you see in this picture, I got a little pack of three doorknobs that this is the Jim Holtz. It's like at craft stores. You find it at Michael's, Joann Fabrics. I bought mine, I think, at Joann Fabrics. I think that possibly Hobby Lobby carries Jim Holtz, but I'm not positive about that. They don't have as big a section for in my area as Joann Fabrics has the biggest. Michael's has some as well. And then I think that Hobby Lobby has some, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like they have as big of a section. But anyways, they make stamps and ink pads and then all kinds of little like paraphernalia and ephemera. And one of them is a pack of three little doorknobs. And that's my favorite. And that's what you see in that picture that I just showed. So that's a great place to get it as well. But again, you can find little doorknobs everywhere. So just, you want to look for the size that you want, and you want to look for it being flat. So why do you want a doorknob? That is the question. So let me slide these out. We'll talk about these other things here in a minute, but we'll start here because this was the request. So I'm going to go ahead and move these things off of here. So this is the actual grid, and obviously you can do all kinds of things, whatever keyholes and keys, and utilizing four crystals, four charms, four runes, whatever you want to utilize to pull those different things together to your heart's content. So if you make crystal grids, then you you can do so many different things with them, and whatever kind of going to the four corners. This also for me would be the four directions, which tie to the four elements, which tie to the four seasons for me specifically. And for me, it would be north. Well, for everybody, I would say it would be north, east, south, and west. For me personally, north is associated with if I was going to put that, I didn't have them there, but if I was going to put the elements here, north would be associated with air and winter. East would be associated with water and spring. South would be associated with fire and summer, and west would be associated with autumn, and earth. And then in terms of other things, for me, east is the beginning, south is where all of the story occurs, west is where the sun starts to set and there's closing energy, and north is where we are kind of looking back and analyzing and processing what has already occurred. And energy is really locked in the north. It's closing in the west. It's very active in the south, and it's just fresh and opening up in the east. So those are the different ways that I utilize the directions, elements, seasons, so on and so forth. So I do a lot with those directional points and all of those different things, right? So I like having kind of a four grid, although I tend to lean more for crystal grids, I tend to lean to sets of three. There's a lot of power and growth in the number 3, and it's my number. My actual birth number is 7, and 7, I didn't know this. 3's been my number for my whole entire life, that I literally as long as I can remember. But 3 actually completes, so 7 plus 3 is 10, and brings about completes me. The number 3 completes me. So anyways, that's my number. So I do tend a lot to lean towards 3s. So I'm more deliberate about having a 4 grid because of the directions and things like that. So you can set different things in mind. You might use it to call on those things. So for example, I kind of changed this up the way you saw it before, is I had my guardian energy. So here in the north is air, and that would be Raven. Here in the east, which would be water, is actually bear for me. I know it probably doesn't make sense to everybody, but it makes a lot of sense to me. Water for me is inner power, and so in the inner world, and so that is for me where bear shows up all the time. So for me, that's the association with bear. In the south, right, we have fire energy, and I use a tree. I do believe that trees can be guardian energies, but it is much more of like a fiery tree, creative, growing, transformative energy. And then in the west is earth, and my wolf guardian is definitely associated with earth and navigation. So that would be there. But then I've also on this grid, again, I'm just using what I had up here, but what I have here is using the 4. These are elements. So this is platonic solids. You'd notice these from like a dice set, a polyhedral dice set. These 4 shapes, the D20, the D6, the D4, and the D8 are the platonic solid shapes for water, earth, fire, and air. Right, so I can call in all of those energies, and for me it would be calling up water, which is unlocking water, which is my inner power, unlocking fire, which is my inner power manifested outward. Then down here, it would be unlocking air, which is in the mental realm and planning and figuring things out. And then unlocking earth is where air is then, all those plans and things are put into effect and into motion into the realm of earth, right? So obviously you can put them right on the keys. If you want to still see the keys, you can. I sometimes do like to be able to see at least the shapes there, but you do you. So that's kind of what those different things might stand for. At home, you'll see there is, I should have pulled the image up, but there is smoky quartz, and right now on it is smoky quartz and snowflake obsidian. So it's much more of a protection grid. This is as well, but it's calling on those aspects of self, those aspects of my guardians, right? Pulling all those into being. And then you would have your knob in the middle. And what I like about this is that this is very active. And again, this is not one I normally use. It's just what I have up here. So hopefully it doesn't fall over. But what I love about any kind of a doorknob grid, right, is that you set up your grid for whatever the intention that you want. And then like mine is on my working table and at home. And so literally when I come out of my bedroom, it's right there. When I go into my bedroom, it's right there. And so when I come out of my bedroom in the morning, I give it a twist and I activate, right? I'm activating the energy of that grid, or kind of charging it, if you will. And then the same thing when I go to bed, because I obviously want to charge it up as I'm sleeping, and I give it a twist there, right? And so it's just a nice way to instead of making a grid and then just walking away from it, which I do also, but instead of just doing that, it's like an active. It's like lighting a candle, but I don't want to leave a candle lit, right, for all that time. So it's a way of kind of feeding and staying intentional and staying mindful about what I've set up, because I'm constantly going and turning the knob. So I love it. I've used it for years. You don't obviously have to have this particular grid, or you can put that onto any grid. These three are going to be, I'm just starting, but they're going to be sold as a set to use. They're also small because I can make these on my engraver that I have now at the apartment, but also these are the size grids that I use. In fact, this is slightly smaller. I've had a grid up like this, which I'll show you in a minute, for literally, I can't even tell you how many years. I put it onto a mirror, and I had put vinyl, like cut vinyl onto it, and I've had that for this particular grid 4 years. So of course I had to have that because I use it all of the time. And so it's a perfect size for me. It fits on my reading table. It fits on my working table. It works on my mini altar. I had a picture up. I think of this because somebody said, "Oh my goodness, what is that?" So that was another reason why we're going to talk about this, even though this isn't a grid. But this fits, anywhere. It fits right with me because I don't have huge spaces. Fits on my ancestor altar, all that kind of stuff. So that's what this is for, and why plus I just love mini things. I definitely am. My mother is obsessed with mini things. She collects little tiny things. Clearly I got it from my mom. And then just space. So that's what the doorknob grid is. So I had kind of went over it when I was asked about it, but I was asked to do a video explaining like what I would do, what I use it for, and that's what I use it for. And it's just there's something about, again, look for, if you can find a bit of a wide, this is a thinner base. I would look for maybe not as tall, although this would definitely work, and I like the feel of the outer. I would probably look for, a little bit of a wider base there so it's not wobbling. But it's just that act of, kind of turning and cranking up the energy of what it is that you've put in there, whether that be crystals. I will sometimes put little piles of herbs if I want to put, 4 different herbs or salts, like I do the let me try if I can open this because I took the doorknob off. But like this is obviously just my traveling stuff, but I have peppermint I use a lot. I have dandelion, mugwort, cinnamon here. And then I have 4 seasonal salts that I make up and I'm going to be selling. I use these for all kinds of things. And so like you could literally take a pinch of each one of the salts in the different directions that you want to activate in some degree, or put it in the middle where you're going to turn the dial. So it doesn't have to be, it can be crystals, it can be charms, it can be runes, it can be whatever you like to make crystal grids out of, or whatever you like to grid with, I guess. I have a little at home, like a divided container, and I like to get sets of little stones that are like this size, because I do a lot of mini grids. I think you can also get, like if you go on like Etsy, you can get like sort of mini grid sets that just have like a nice amount of, and I usually get them in sets of 3. I should get them in sets of 4. But I generally get them, I have a lot of them in sets of 3 or 6. I like to have them or 8 really is best, because I can also use them for geomancy sigils in sand. But anyways, But yeah, so you can get like at natural food stores, have little tumble stones, sometimes yoga shops. If you're like me and there's not like a lot of big like crystal shops around you, often look at natural food stores. They usually have a crystal section, I found, at least the ones in my area do. And yoga, sometimes yoga shops and yoga studios will have a little baskets of just tumbles as well. I have what I call a candy jar full of tumbles that I will use for this as well. So anyways, all different things you can do with that. But that is the doorknob one. So then this one is, again, I've had this shape. I cut it out first in vinyl. So I just took it and, burned it onto here. And obviously this is going in sets of threes here. And I've got the four phases, but depending on which way you're going, right? I've got the new moon, the full moon, and then either the waxing or the waning moon. And you can even turn it if you're really working with one versus another. You can turn that to see whether. And I've always, Patrick told me left is leaving, right, maybe it's right is rising, left is leaving. I probably have it wrong, but this the brightness, where the brightness is at. But anyways, don't take my word for it, but figure it out for yourself. So this is just for sets of three. I like to have whatever is really the strongest activator in the middle. In this case here, I cast, these are James Eads rune dice. It's the full Anglo-Saxon set, and it has one for each of the 4 eighths, because it's gotten the last 8, I think, doesn't have, because doesn't have the full, so you've got calc on there, you've got gar on there, you've got oak on there, you've got stone, you've got the bow, you've got earth on there, and so on and so forth. So you've got the extra ones to complete the Anglo-Saxon runes, which is what I use now. So I don't tend to like rune dice, to be honest, because I want I want Wunyo, right, to be able to show up in a reading with Gabo. I don't want them to be separated. But because this is one for each of the eights, so to speak, that is a cool kind of reading, because each of those sets have their own. This isn't a rune lesson, but each of those sets have sort of overarching themes as well, and so it can be a way to cast a reading. So I had these set up here. So I cast, now I don't have them there, but I cast a set and then created a bind rune with those that I put under it. I do love like these. This is a clear quartz pyramid. And this is fantastic. Think about it's taking the energy of whatever your bind rune or whatever. You could write a little note on there. I don't, do you, right? Whatever works for you. I keep these little papers in obviously I have them at home, but I also keep them in, I just punched out some hexagons there, and so I just put that in the middle. You can you put words on there that you want to write, put a single rune, put a bind rune, put an ogham, put a geomancy sigil, like whatever you want to put on there. And having something like this, or a point, like a lot of people have like crystal points it feels like it's kind of focusing it, whatever's under it and what's going to be placed around it, it's focusing all of that upward, and sending that energy out into the world. So that's pretty cool. But again, you can do whatever you want with it. And in this case, I put these little obsidian pieces because I had those up here. And then from a animal charm casting set, for rising energy, I pulled an animal spirit guardian that's going to aid in that, and you had spider. For full moon energy of manifestation of healing for me with frog, and then in the dark of the moon and in the dark side of the moon and the freshness of the moon, I have heron energy and balancing energy coming in, right? So I just pulled those randomly from my animal charm set. So all of that energy is being, again, you could use this and stick a doorknob in there too, and activate that if you want to keep working with that. So you could, especially if you get that little Jim Holtz set, you'll have 3 doorknobs. If you just like to turn all the doorknobs every morning and come in and turn your doorknobs, there you go. So that, again, there's that's just how I use it. People do crystal grids all, their own way. So this is not the only way to approach working with little grids, but that's that one. Lets you kind of harness the power of 3. And then this is because people have taken classes with me, people who have taken workshops with me, probably grown. I have another set of this where I actually made the words bigger, but that's at home. But I am really obsessed with the power of the 3 cauldrons, which is a old Irish poem. I think the manuscript that we have it on is the 12th century, but from the language of the old Irish, they date it back potentially as far back as like the 900s. And with that is the understanding that we are born with energy points. So think about people using energy points, chakra points, but that we have an understanding that the Celtic people understood that we were born with energy points. And we have the cauldron of warming, which is at the pelvis, right? That heats us up, that's governs our health and well-being. And I'm not going to do a whole 3 cauldrons thing here, but these all can move. So this can tip over in bad health. It can, so mostly that can just tip over or upright. So I have what can bring me health, and I just, shook up some runes and bring, and pull a rune for each of these of what, but this could also be deliberate. You could pull an actual, say, okay, I want to really work with, oops, this is charms. Well, that's fine. We'll pull out some of these charms. So here's my charm set. So I could say to myself, okay, I want to really manifest powerful energy of the rhinoceros energy, to manifest that kind of strong health, that I'm just going to plow through whatever's coming ahead, right? What's going to bring me joy? I'm going to lean into the beauty and amazing energy of hummingbird, but also be protective of my joy, be protective of they're fierce protective, fierce setting boundaries. So I'm going to really set boundaries and be protective of the things that bring me joy here, because this can tip a lot. This cauldron, the middle cauldron, is a cauldron of motion, and it can turn a lot with great joy and great sorrow. And we want to keep it upright so that we can gain the wisdom that comes down from the upper world and into our cauldron of wisdom, up at the crown, up at the top of the head, right? So what is going to bring me clarity? So I might go through my animals, and I might choose something like a shark and say, I'm going to really open myself up to shark energy, that honed in, focused, watching, waiting, and when I need to act on that clarity, I can act on that in a second, right? So you can be deliberate about this, or you could just shake up your rune, shake up your, pick a rune that says, okay, this is what you need, energy you want to work with for those 3 things. Again, you can put herbs in there if you use a lot of herbs, whatever that might look like for you. So this is much more what I would call prescriptive, right? We want to keep those energy points. What is it that I need in those 3 areas to keep that energy flowing inward, upward for me? So again, something I work a ton with is the 3 cauldrons, and so having a place to set those things is perfect. So I always do what's, what I use, right, is important to me. So those are the 3 grids, right? So that's a set of 3 grids. And so, and then again, the main reason is the question was about this, so hopefully I covered that. Now, this was a lot of fun. Let me zoom in here a little bit more. There we go. this was a lot of fun for me. So again, anybody who knows me knows I love to work with pendulums. I have quite a few pendulums. I have a pendulum workshop. I find for me that pendulums really get out of my active brain and down into my subconscious. So very interesting things pop up for me with pendulum work. So I love to use pendulums. Copper is probably my favorite thing to use with pendulums. But crystal ones, I have all different kinds. This just happened to be up here in my traveling altar. So I really wanted to think about, okay, what, if I have this little grid, because you don't need a giant thing with pendulum. It's just going to swing as it's going to swing. You just need that center point to see what way it's swinging. And so, I really put some time into thinking about, again, how I might utilize a pendulum. And so this one has the basics, right? So your I'll just make it swing, right? So, your yes movement, like nodding your head, your no movement, like shaking your head back and forth. Of course, you always want that center point for don't know, like unknown right now. Things are still in flux, right? So that's important to me. Again, I do like the 4 directions, but you can't do the 4 directions, right, in a pendulum. If you're going like this, north and south are going to be the same, and east and west are going to be the same. So this kind of constellation looking is so that if I'm focusing on, I told you all those things I associate with the direction. Is energy just beginning, or is energy like full in active phase in the south, or is it closing so that I can't really move it too much, or is it done and closed and now I just got to see, reflect on it so I can move forward. That's so what level of malleability energy is at, I can see through the directions. Obviously, if you really need something specific about the directions, but that also associates it can associate to the elements or to the seasons and what those mean. All those things that I talked about. So I, played around with it and made more of a constellation. So I've got north as it is swinging here. I have east as it's swinging, but it's not bumping into any other direction, right? I have south along the horizontal line here, and then I have west going this way. So none of these will, cross the other one, so it's very clear what the directions are. I also like to, so these are the four, these are the 7 energy points that are in my journey either token or oracle set, because these relate to the 7 energy points. And so I like to use a pendulum with this, like what is an area that I need to be working with. So then, if it comes up with, grounding energy, I've got to work on grounding energy here, but then I can go right up to here and say, okay, because pendulum work generally isn't just asking one question, right? It's asking one question and then you're doing follow up to get all of the details, right? And so I might say, okay, well, what is the energy that I need to be working with? And it might say, okay, I need to work with my grounding energy. And so then I can say, okay, well, what is the state of this energy? And so then it can either be open, or it can be blocked, or it could be in flux where, okay, there's something is stirred up here. It's not going really, it's not one way or another. That is often a good indication that things are just out of sorts, and I need to do, again, follow-up questions and kind of continue to work my way through the situation. So that has the open and it has the blocked, and then of course it has all of the energy points there, and then you've got your yes and no and unknown in the middle as per usual. But then you also have these 4, the lines make these 4 grids. And so this is really interesting because they could be the elements. So you could literally, for me, it would be now, I used to do it differently, but at the moment, this would be water and fire and air and earth. So then I could really do some work there. I could also charm cast a bit, right? Grab a handful, cast some charms, whatever lands, and then also do some pendulum work, having those 4 corners there. I could also just set those up as either 2 different options. or however I want to do that. So I like having the grids here to do different things. But always remember that your points, right, can't cross each other, because if you're saying, let's say you say, I'm going to put this here, this here, this here, and this here, right? You can't do that because you don't know which one of those things are there. So you're generally better to have like two choices and decide on those, or just make sure if you have one up in this corner, one up in this corner, um, you know, you got to just make sure that when it's swinging, it's obvious that it's not hitting the other. I don't utilize that much, but I do like that for pieces there. Just make sure that it's very clear what your pendulum is pointing to, I guess is my point. So anyways, that's my mini grid, or my mini pendulum that really has everything that I use and need to access for a quick, for just to have for pendulum work. So that's that. That's separate from that, from the three set. Is not everybody, obviously, not everybody works with pendulums. Well, I can leave it smaller. Let's put that here. And then the last of the little things, I guess that's what we're doing today, is looking at the little wood things in my shop or that are going into my shop. But I made actually this little box. I made this for so I play D&D, as most of you know. And our in person, so I DM an online group, but I also play. I have a character in an in-person campaign, and so my daughter is pregnant, and we for both her and my bonus son play, and so we did a surprise little baby shower for them, D&D style. And so I made one of these little boxes, but it said baby's first D20. I don't think it said anything on the bottom. It was just baby's first 20 on D20. And then they don't want to know the gender of the baby, so I had a pink and a blue mixed D20 in there. But then this one I made for divination. You know, you all know I love to cast dice for divination. So I have this one with a D20 in it. And then on the bottom, now was my prototype one, but I won't stain in the middle. I'll keep it light so that you can actually read this better. And how you can use a D20 for casting. So let's just dump that out there. So you can see, well, you might not be able to see on the bottom, but you can see on the bottom that it can be, I love using a D20, right? You have obviously 20 numbers, so you have even and odd numbers. If something is even, it is passive. That comes from geomancy, right? When we cast for geomancy. So even would be passive, and that would be a no if you're doing a yes and no. An odd number would be active, and that would be a yes if you are doing a yes and no. So that's written right on the bottom. You can also check, like if you're doing it, this would be more for like if you're doing a reading and it's about whether or not you're going to get a job. It's about whether or not you're going to find true love. It's about whether you're going to get yourself unstuck from a situation. And you either want to get the speed of a situation, you know, if you think about a continuum of 1 through 20, is it, you know, feeling like it's going to happen faster, or is it feeling like it's going to happen slower? We use this with geomancy, where you kind of had a medium number, and so if it's less than that, it's going faster. If it's more, so you could use, say, 10 or 11, as 10 being the medium. Anything less than that is going faster. Anything higher than that is going slower. Or you could have it more of a progression, right? At the beginning, it's just going slower. If it's going 20 miles an hour instead of 1 mile an hour, it's going faster. But also just progress, like how far, like a lot of times we're like, I'm trying to go from here to here. Where are we at in the progress, right? And so 14, you know, on a continuum of 20, it's like, okay, we're making progress. We're down the road a little bit. Sometimes I don't really believe that timing, because I think so many things can change timing. I don't think timing as in it's going to happen on January 2nd, 2024. I don't that stuff can change so much. But I do believe we can get an idea of how quickly are things moving at the time of casting. And I think that can be really helpful. You can also do it almost as a checking the energetic weather before a reading, or just in general. If you don't have to do it during a reading, but you might, before the start of a reading, say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and see what's the primary energy going on. And so it says 1 through 10 is below, or it's inner energy. If I'm working on, is this inner stuff or is this outer stuff? This has helped. I use this a lot in ancestor readings. So I might get a message on something that I pulled, and I'm like, okay, is this something internal I'm supposed to be working on, or is this something external? So then if it's 1 through 10, it's inner work. If it's above 20, if it's 11 and up, it's outer work. But I take that number. 2 is about number energy. It's either drawing in or pushing apart, but it's generally energy that's coming together, right? You have a single 1, 2 draws energy in together, 3 starts to grow. So I know there's some things coming together potentially in the outer world regarding whatever message that I'm doing, whether it's a reading or whatever. Whereas if I get a 4, I can see needing to really bring some stability to my inner landscape and really work on stabilizing my inner power base. So it can be a great way. Numbers are, the key, right, for a lot of things that we do for divination. And that is a great way to either set myself up for the energy of a reading and then go and do the reading knowing it's a lot of that energy is focused inward and it's focused on stabilizing. Or again, if for me, I use it a lot in ancestor space, so that I can say, okay, I've got this strong message coming through, but I'm not sure if this is regarding, external things or internal things. So I do really like to, and then I use the number itself to determine. So again, we get with the 12 apparently. But if I were to look at that 12, maybe this dice is not as well. There's a 10. Check your dice. Check your dice. 11, right? Something is sparking in the outer world. Whoa. Roll that one. 8. That's about mastering my inner power. 10 again. That's a completion in the inner world. 13, something is growing in the outer world, in the external world, so on and so forth, right? You get the picture. But there's a lot actually you can do with just a D20. Plus, if you're like me and you do geomancy readings, obviously you can just roll this 4 times to get your geomancy sigil. But this kind of stuff just makes me so happy. I mean, divination can and should spark joy. And this sparks all the joy. It is dice rolling. It is small. It is cute. It has mini magnets and foam to protect your dice. So it just makes me happy. But not to mention, I also find it to be a useful way to read. So there you go. That is a look, I guess. I didn't plan for this. Well, I didn't think about this being the case, but I guess this is a look at all of the mini wood things coming to the Truth in Story, and also how I use them and why I would pick those things and make those things as sort of a starting point there. So I hope that you've enjoyed this and can maybe see some new ways you can do things for yourself, and that it sparks some degree of joy. So have a wonderful rest of your day or night whenever you are watching this.